Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this actually, and I know I laid out the question on our chat on Sunday night, but I want to talk to you about this on record.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. Derrick Henry, top 10 running back all time?
Yeah, I wish I had more time to study this because I've actually been running the black and gold banneret while the founder, Jeff Sharon, is on a cruise. So I have not had disposable time to do the research as yet. But I mean, when you go running backs, the conversation should, in my opinion, start with Jim Brown. It doesn't because people are stupid, but it starts with Jim Brown, right? So it's Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton.
Your locks.
All in there, right? Do you put Emmett? Okay.
Yeah, you do.
Is Derrick Henry better than Emmett?
There's a conversation with that because of the fact that Emmett, as we said, Emmett's top 5 all time, but he's overrated, if that makes any sense to you.
Well, I'm not going to say overrated, but what is unaccounted for, and by the way, Emmett gets extra points for carrying a garbage-ass quarterback that is overrated the hell and back in the form of Troy.
Okay.
I said it. Okay. And don't even get me started on Starbuck. Okay. Anyways, deal with it, Cowboys fans. Still not the most overrated Hall of Famer of all time. That's Joe Namath. Anyways.
Yeah. I said what I said.
I said what I said. Like, would you, let's just go with Titans running backs to start with, right? Would you take Derrick Henry over Eddie George?
At this point, yes.
Okay. But your hesitation tells me there's a conversation to be had. And by the way, there's nothing out there that says Derrick Henry won't defy age and continue to be great. Obviously, you have him ahead of CJ2K, some of the other big running backs with the Titans or Oilers. Is he better than Earl Campbell? That's a tough sell.
I'll still say no because Earl Campbell is probably in the top 10 also.
Okay, so but as you see, it's closer than I thought it would be when I first read it in the notes. But with the book still being written, it's hard for me to kind of say it with definition, right? This would be up there with when Steve Smith was a Raven. Get the stats out of here, because if you're doing stats, that actually hurts Derrick Henry, in my opinion.
No, but I'm gonna lay this out for you. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna lay this out real quick. So Derrick Henry right now.
I don't mean literally take the stats down. You may want to zoom in if you're expecting somebody to see that.
Yeah, do it right now. That's right. No.
But I while you're setting that up, I liken this to trying to ask if Steve Smith is a top 10 receiver while he was with the Ravens, because of the body of work that he had. But then there's all the names in front of him you got to get rid of. But go ahead.
So right now, Derrick Henry currently is 31st all-time in rushing. He just passed 10,000 yards this weekend. He just passed 10,000 yards. Congrats to him, by the way, this past weekend. Okay, here's the thing. And watching Derrick Henry the last this year alone with Baltimore, he looks like a rejuvenated guy. Like that run against Buffalo last week, the 87-yard run.
No, he's not rejuvenated. He's just being asked to do less.
Right.
Which is fine, by the way.
So he crossed 10,000. He's 31st. But if you look at between 30 and 23, he'll probably pass. He's on pace to passing these guys this year alone.
Let's ask this question. Are we expecting Derrick Henry to break 11th thou?
At this point, yes.
Okay, so he's going to get into the top 20 pretty convincingly and start getting into Corey Dillon territory.
Right. If he can rush for close to 1,000 yards for the next 2 to 3 years, he gets into the 12,000, 13,000 conversation, which now gets into the top 12 to 10 conversation.
Well, okay.
Then because a contextual argument. Then
for the podcasters that don't see the video here, or the thought podcast audience, the only real safe way to get top 10 is 13,000. All right,
of course, yeah. Eric Dickerson is the first one on that list.
Right. But here's the thing, according to this sheet, and granted it's because he played fewer games, but according to this sheet, Jim Brown is only 11th? Nah, son. Yardage does not necessarily
correct
make a top 10 quarterback, right?
Right.
But like, for example, I would take Derrick Henry over Curtis Martin
easily
on durability alone. Would I take Derrick Henry over the bust, Jerome Bettis?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't, because Bettis is far more versatile. Bettis at age $1 billion, ended up taking over being the full-time back when I think it was Fast Willie Parker got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very competent in catching passes and all that stuff. Derrick Henry, he's not a liability, but he's not a receiver to the same extent. And both guys, Bettis and Derrick Henry, were central to their offenses at some point in time.
Yeah.
I won't argue that at all, but I would take Bettis. That's real close though. I would certainly take him ahead of Tony Dorsett, no question. I would take him ahead of Eric Dickerson, who's famous. I'm not saying he's a bad running back. I'm saying he's mostly famous for a single particular season that he
84,
had.
right? 84.
Yeah. Which again, there's nothing wrong with giving a dude credit for that, but I would not put Eric Dickerson in the top 10 now.
Yeah, top 10 now is a little harder to sell because the sample size is still smaller. But I think the sample size it grows, and at this rate, and playing in Baltimore, I think is going to help his case too. Also, he has more help now for once.
Well, and I think the original, would you, if you put Derrick Henry as a top 10, having to carry a bad team for so long and all that, you have to do the same for Steven Jackson.
Yeah, there are guys in the top 20 that you'd be surprised. Corey Dillon's in here. Steven Jackson said
Corey Dillon is an underappreciated.
No, he is. But you wouldn't think that's not a name you would bring up unless like you were really going to a deep dive of running backs. You know what I'm saying? So Derrick Henry is
tool. You wouldn't bring up Corey Dillon, but if you're a student,
I like Corey Dillon, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Like OJ's top 10 all the time, but he's number 21 rushing. I put him top 10 though all the time. OJ,
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
Okay.
I would. Okay. But yeah, so we'll see. But I think it's definitely an argument. I will still say no. Look at these names here, but I think by the end of next year, we can have a different conversation. There's guys in between 10 and 22 that are like I would take Derrick Henry over at this point.
Yeah, well, and as we mentioned with Dickerson and a couple of other guys in there that we did.
Yeah, so there's just that.